They sit quietly on your shelf, stacked, sealed, and trusted. But what if that innocent canned food is laced with lead? What if the chili you fed your family contains cadmium strong enough to scar their kidneys for life? A 2021 Consumer Reports investigation found that nearly 1 in 3 canned foods sold in U.S. supermarkets contain measurable levels of heavy metals, with lead, arsenic, cadmium, or mercury, and the worst offenders not obscure brands, but well-known stores you visit weekly. How many of these cans have you already eaten? How many are still in your pantry? Quietly corroding. This video will pull back the label and expose the dark underbelly of the canned food industry. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Let's break down 8 supermarket chains you should never buy canned food from. Number 1. Walmart. The cheapest can in your pantry might most likely turn out to be the most expensive thing you ever bought. Not in dollars, but in damage. Could you believe that? For decades, Walmart has wanted you to think otherwise. With that oversized smiley face and everyday low price mantra, it becomes the comfort food of capitalism. It's where lunch meats meet laundry soap, where you grab a prescription refill, a rotisserie chicken, and a 25-cent can of beans. But does that cheap means safe crack open one of those cans, and you might as well be spinning a chemical roulette wheel. In 2020, the nonprofit Healthy Babies. Bright Futures tested canned vegetables sold at major retailers. Walmart's house brand, Great Value, didn't just fail quietly, it roared with red flags. Corn, green beans, and peas under the Great Value label showed consistent contamination from heavy metals, such as lead, mercury, arsenic, and cadmium. One can of sweet corn contained cadmium levels 8 times higher than what experts consider safe. Now imagine that simmering in your stew or spooned into your family's bowl. Cadmium isn't just a scary word. For specific, it's a kidney killer and a bone thinner. It stacks up in your system like bad debt, and for older folks already facing bone loss and foggy memory, that mystery pain or brittle joint might not be aging. But Walmart corn, and Great Value isn't acting alone. That shelf also stocks names like Hunt's, Libby's, Armour, and Hormel. Libby's canned fruit was blasted by Consumer Reports in 2021 for excessive sugar and preservatives. Just what a diabetic on a fixed income doesn't need. What's about Armour's Vienna sausages packed with sodium nitrite? A carcinogen flagged for increasing colon cancer risk, especially in people over 60. Hormel, once a nostalgic road trip name, has been called out in multiple lawsuits for ingredient cover-ups and questionable sourcing, and don't even feel safe with the can itself. The Center for Environmental Health found in 2022 that Walmart's Great Value cans still used BPA-laced linings, long after competitors dropped it. BPA is a hormone disruptor tied to infertility, heart problems, and cancers. It doesn't just leach when microwaved. It seeps in while your can sits in a baking hot delivery truck or on a metal shelf under flickering fluorescent lights, waiting for your cart to roll by. Then there's the international relay race behind the label. Walmart sources canned foods from countries like China, Thailand, and Brazil, nations where factories are too often caught faking USDA papers or slipping past inspections. In one 2019 scandal, a Chinese cannery supplying mushrooms to Walmart was shut down after rat droppings were found in the processing vats. But those mushrooms, they still made it to US stores, wrapped in fresh labels, smiling from your pantry, whispering, "We're fine." And who bears the cost when the body breaks down from this hidden chemical cocktail? No news cameras show up when a senior lands in the hospital with stomach ulcers or nerve pain. No one connects it to that cheap can of beans from aisle 7. You suffer in silence while the rollback stickers keep rolling. But clearly you don't have to play this game. Smaller, quieter chains like Natural Grocers carry Eden Foods, an old-school, no BPA, heavy metal-tested brand that sources its ingredients domestically and transparently. Their prices aren't sky-high, and your body will know the difference. Even a few cents more per con can mean the difference between steady strength and slow decay. And if you've got 5 minutes, a pot and a little salt, a bag of dried lentils will feed you better, cleaner, and cheaper in the long run than any steel-sealed question mark from a mega chain warehouse. Walmart calls it Great Value, But when your bones, brain, and blood are the payment, what exactly are you getting? Number 2, Dollar General. It's the store that feels like it's part of your neighborhood, not just near it. Dollar General promises quick grabs, cheap fills, and aisles full of canned comfort. No long drives or fancy aisles. In your sight are simple, yellow-signed savings in hundreds of small towns across America, especially where the last grocery store closed 10 years ago. It became a necessity. You grab a can of chili here, maybe peaches and syrup there, $1 at a time. It always feels like a harmless shortcut, but behind those familiar shelves, something darker is simmering inside the tin. Take a closer look at Dollar General's canned lineup. Clover Valley, Brookdale, Armour, Libby's, Southgate. It's like a reunion of repeat offenders, not just cheap brands. They're huge red flags wrapped in metal. They show up in FDA enforcement actions, consumer reports warnings, and endless complaints from shoppers who were hoping for nourishment and got deception instead. Let's start with the crown jewel of the chain, Clover Valley. It's Dollar General's own label, and in 2023, the Environmental Working Group issued a serious warning about it. They tested Clover Valley canned pastas and vegetables and found sodium levels that should make your heart skip a beat. One single serving of their canned spaghetti and meatballs contains 1,280 milligrams of sodium. That's over half of what a senior citizen should consume in a day, in just one meal. You don't call it food, because it's a blood pressure bomb in disguise, and the ingredients more like mystery meat. In 2022, Consumer Affairs tested Clover Valley's chicken noodle soup. No chicken found, just textured soy protein and salt water. Another can-labeled product of USA was traced back to a Vietnamese factory with a track record of lead in the water and workers handling food without gloves. So if you're trusting the label, you're already behind. But perhaps most disturbing isn't what's inside the cans, but where those cans are stored before they ever reach your hands. In early 2022, the FDA inspected a Dollar General distribution center in Kentucky and found expired cans stacked next to open buckets of industrial cleaner, rodent droppings all over the dry goods, and cans with rusted seams still being shipped to stores across the South. That same year, OSHA slapped Dollar General with over $1.28 million in fines for unsafe storage and sanitation practices that could turn your pantry into a petri dish. And when the worst happens, the cover-up begins. In 2021, the USDA issued a Class Y recall, the most serious kind, for Southgate chili with beans, sold across the country by Dollar General. The reason metal shavings inside the cans, a reasonable probability of death, the recall said. But in one Arkansas town, a shopper ate that chili 3 weeks after the recall because no one at Dollar General took it off the shelf. They only found out through a Facebook post. Cannot be just a mistake. That's negligence with a barcode. Despite all this, Dollar General hasn't changed course. There's no requirement for employees to be trained in food safety, no sourcing transparency for Clover Valley products, no indication that they test for heavy metals, bacteria, or packaging integrity. Every can is a gamble. Every bite is a risk you didn't agree to take, but you do have a way out. Hannaford, a regional chain from New England, quietly does what Dollar General won't. Their private label canned goods are BPA-free, sodium-conscious, and largely sourced from U.S. farms and suppliers. They publish regular audits and recall voluntarily, even when the law doesn't make them. You get honesty sealed into every can, and if there's no Hannaford nearby, don't despair. You can make a big batch of vegetable stew, freeze it in silicone molds, and portion it into reusable bags when you need it. Drop a cube in a pot and heat it up. No rust and no metal slivers. Of course, there's also no guessing games. Looking back at Dollar Generals, we have to face the fact when your heart, your kidneys, and your wallet are all hanging by a thread, Dollar General's so-called deal stops being a discount and starts looking like a ticking time bomb. Number 3, Kroger. Kroger wants to be your middle-class peace offering, not too pricey, but also not dirty cheap. It offered you clean floors, soft music, and fresh for everyone printed like a moral promise. It's the place where you feel okay spending a little more than at Dollar General, but not so much that you need to skip a prescription to buy groceries. For many older shoppers on fixed incomes, Kroger plays the part of the safe in between. But in the canned food aisle, that safety turns out to be a stage prop. And what's behind the curtain smells a lot like betrayal. Take their private labels, Kroger brand and Simple Truth. Sure, they sit beside household names like Libby's and Hormel, but these in-house brands quietly fill most of the shelf space. You'd think a brand called Simple Truth would be, well, truthful. Yet in 2022, Consumer Reports caught several Simple Truth items with elevated sodium and misleading labels. One can of no salt added beans had nearly twice the sodium expected. That's not a mistake, but a setup. And for seniors managing blood pressure, it's dangerous. And then there's BPA. While many grocery chains phased it out by 2018, Kroger's own brand canned vegetables and soups were still being sold in BPA-lined cans in 2020, 3 years after the company pledged to eliminate it. The Center for Environmental Health confirmed this with lab results. So while the store advertised cleaner options, customers were unknowingly buying products linked to cancer, heart disease, and hormone disruption. The very thing people were trying to avoid. But the worst offense may be what never hit the headlines. In 2019, one of Kroger's meat suppliers later sealed behind a confidential settlement was caught repackaging rejected, low-grade beef trimmings into so-called premium canned meat. This was meat deemed unfit for sale, run through a grinder, doused in preservatives, and sold in cans with polished labels. The supplier failed 3 USDA inspections before Kroger finally ended the deal. Yet no public recalls, no warning to customers, just silence. And that silence carries into the stores themselves. Employees have reported being told to keep dented cans on shelves as long as they weren't leaking, expired or not. If it looked passable, it stayed. One former Ohio Kroger worker said flat out, if it's not bulging, we leave it. That's not food safety, it's corporate theater with a side of risk. In 2023, a Kroger store in Nashville was fined after inspectors found canned goods stored above 100 degrees Fahrenheit near heat vents. That's the kind of slow-cooked chemical leak you can't see or smell, but it finds its way into your bloodstream just the same. And here's the gut punch. Kroger still markets this all as fresh. It's not just the food that's being preserved, it's the illusion. If you've ever trusted that illusion, maybe it's time to share your story. Because the next shopper picking up that dented can might be someone like you trying to do their best with what little they've got. Number 4. Save a Lot. Save a Lot doesn't just sell food, it sells the illusion that you found a loophole in a broken system. With its bare bones aisles, off-brand labels, and rock-bottom prices, it whispers a quiet promise to every shopper scraping together meals on a threadbare budget. You're doing okay. It's where the working class hustle meets the corner store shortcut. But beneath that yellow signage and those dollar and change deals lies a truth far more corrosive than any discount. You're not saving money, you're trading it for risk. Behind Save-A-Lot's generic brands like Food Club, J. Higgs, and Coburn Farms are supply chains so tangled and safety standards so paper thin, you might be safer buying a used tire for dinner. These house labels have been the subject of repeated complaints, quality concerns, and recalls, most of which never make it to the front page. Let's begin with the packaging because sometimes the warning is written right on the metal. Stores in Missouri, Indiana, and Mississippi have all been caught selling canned goods that were rusted, dented, and even bulging at the seams. In 2021, Local 12 News out of Cincinnati released footage from inside a Save-A-Lot where entire shelves were lined with corroding cans of green beans. Experts say that's a red flag for botulism, a rare but deadly illness that attacks the nervous system. And yet, those cans weren't pulled. The manager shrugged. The health department looked the other way. Then comes the ingredients. A 2022 report by the Center for Science in the Public Interest took a hard look at Save-A-Lot's canned meats and found a recipe that reads more like a science experiment than a meal. Food Club's Vienna sausages and potted meat were packed with sodium nitrite, TBHQ, and something called mechanically separated chicken, a slurry made from ground-up bones, cartilage, and skin. These substances are flagged by the World Health Organization for potentially contributing to cancer and chronic inflammation, especially dangerous for seniors. And it doesn't stop there. Save-A-Lot imports many of its canned vegetables and sardines from factories in China and the Philippines, some of which have been fined for using reclaimed industrial water in food production. That means the peas in your stew might have been rinsed in the same water that mopped up grease off a factory floor. It's not a scare tactic, it's documented supply chain history. Still thinking? Well, at least it's not expired. Think again. In 2020, Save-A-Lot was hit with a class action lawsuit in Illinois after reports surfaced that stores were wiping off expiration dates with solvent and relabeling expired canned food in low-income neighborhoods. The case settled quietly, but former employees went public online, saying managers were given direct instructions on how to make expired food look fresh enough. Add to this the fact that most Save-A-Lot stores are franchised, not corporately owned. That means corporate turns a blind eye while local owners cut corners, no required training, no regular inspections, and no penalties unless someone gets sick. When accountability is optional, safety becomes a suggestion, not a standard. So what do you really save at Save-A-Lot? Certainly not trust. If you want to stop rolling the dice every time you open a can, there are better bets out there. Market Basket, rooted in the Northeast, sources most of its canned foods from within the country, under stricter regional food safety codes, and unlike Save-A-Lot, their employees are trained to inspect every can for rust, dents, or bloating every single week. Cheap food isn't a bargain when the price you're really paying is your peace of mind. If you've ever been burned by a bloated can, maybe it's time to speak up. Someone else might still be falling for the same illusion. Number 5. Family Dollar. Family Dollar tries to sell itself as the corner store that cares. Open late, prices low, just enough on the shelf to tide you over when the food stamps start thinning and the gas tank's nearly dry. It's the kind of place where a $3 can of spaghetti and a box of crackers feels like a plan, not a compromise. But behind that friendly red and white sign lies one of the filthiest canned food disasters in recent memory, one that makes you question whether the store is saving lives or slowly risking them. In 2022, the FDA exposed a horror story that would have shut down most operations permanently, yet Family Dollar kept the lights on. Agents launched a criminal investigation after discovering that the company's West Memphis, Arkansas distribution center, which supplied over 400 stores across 6 southern states, had become a rat palace. And not just a few stray rodents, we're talking over 1,100 dead rats, some rotting for weeks in the same rooms where canned goods, baby formula, and pet food were being stored. The FDA photos were stomach-turning cans stacked next to insulation chewed to ribbons, piles of feces inches from food items, and decomposing carcasses melting into concrete floors. Hundreds of products had to be recalled, including canned vegetables, meat, and soup under brands like Family Gourmet, Chef Boyardee, Southgate, and Libby's. But instead of releasing a clear product-by-product list, Family Dollar threw everything into vague categories. That left many families guessing what was safe and what had shared shelf space with rodent waste. Worse still, employees blew the whistle. One former warehouse worker told CBS News that management knew about the infestation and simply told staff to wipe the cans down and ship them. That's not protocol, that's contempt. Rat urine and droppings are known carriers of dangerous diseases like leptospirosis and listeria. You don't just wipe off microbial contamination, and you certainly don't pretend it never happened. But the negligence didn't stop at the warehouse. A follow-up investigation by USA Today found that weeks after the recall, Family Dollar stores in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana were still selling contaminated stock. One Louisiana customer posted photos of moldy corn in a sealed Family Gourmet can expiration date still good, but the inside already rotten. How does something like that happen unless the product was already compromised? And through it all, Family Dollar offered no apology, no in-store signage, no emails. Just a buried press release and a quiet move on from corporate. For a store that claims to serve struggling communities, their response was deafening in its silence. So where do you turn when the only store in your zip code gambles with your health, Wegmans? If you're lucky enough to have one, is everything Family Dollar isn't. Their in-house brand is BPA-free, lab-tested, and ethically sourced. And when something goes wrong, they don't hide, they act. Recalls are public, swift, and often come with direct notices and refunds. That's what accountability looks like. Because if a store is willing to sell you a can that sat next to a decomposing rat and call it affordable, then it's not just your health that's under attack. It's your basic worth as a customer. And that kind of betrayal doesn't get wiped off with a disinfectant rag. Number 6. Big Lots. Big Lots looks like a bargain hunter's playground, chaotic. unpredictable, and full of surprise deals stacked next to garden hoses and scented candles. It's the kind of place where you stop for batteries and leave with a cart full of canned chili you didn't plan to buy. But when groceries come from the liquidation pile, what exactly are you putting in your body? Here's the quiet part they don't say out loud. Big Lots sells cast-offs, overstock from failed promotions, discontinued items, returned goods from chains that didn't trust them enough to keep. The canned food aisle. It's not stocked by design, it's built from what the rest of the retail world rejected. Take Castleberry's. You might spot their chili sauce on the shelf. But back in 2007, Castleberry's was behind a national botulism outbreak so severe it hospitalized several people. The FDA temporarily shut down production. Yet here it is, back again, quietly resurfacing in discount bins, some cans even showing rust and bulging seams in recent consumer complaints. Brookdale's another frequent flyer. Their canned beef stews and chicken have been flagged for misleading labels, hidden MSG, and chemical preservatives like nitrates triggering everything from migraines to blood pressure spikes. No country of origin labeling, no explanation, no oversight. Worse still, where this food is kept before it lands in your cart. A 2023 supplier inspection uncovered storage alongside pesticide pallets in uncooled warehouses and misprinted expiration dates. One viral photo showed the same can marked with 2 different years. Which one do you trust? Big Lots won't tell you how they vet their food suppliers. That silence is deafening. When it comes to your health, buying mystery cans from the reject pile is no deal at all. Eating shouldn't feel like a gamble. And no price is low enough to justify a meal laced with doubt. Number 7. Piggly Wiggly. Piggly Wiggly wants to be your small-town sweetheart, with its smiling pig logo and old-school charm. It sells familiarity in every aisle, but comfort is not the same as safety, and behind those paper bags and discount stickers is a canned food aisle that might be doing more harm than good. The chain's loose franchise model leaves food safety in limbo. No national policy, no standard inspections, and zero guarantees that what lands on your plate won't come with a side of risk. That's a problem when stores across Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina have been caught selling dented, rusted, even leaking cans some past expiration. In 2022, Food Safety News found a Mississippi store stocking fruit cocktail and green beans with corrosion under the rim. That's where botulism bacteria thrive. One bad can, and a quiet dinner could turn into an ambulance ride. Then there's what's inside. Budget labels like Value Time and Brookdale fill Piggly Wiggly shelves. A 2020 test showed Value Time carrots exceeding California's lead limits. Another brand, House of Chiang, had canned chow mein with sodium benzoate over FDA's safe level dangerous when combined with vitamin C. No warning on the label. Even worse. Many items come from factories in countries with weak inspection standards. In 2021, a batch of Value Time peas rejected for pesticides was later rerouted and sold anyway, just with a new label. Reported don't bother. Most store clerks aren't trained in food safety, and the corporate office shrugs. You're left holding the can and the risk. For a safer bet, Lidl offers strict standards, EU grade inspections, and transparency. Their canned brands undergo heavy metal testing and proper labeling. It's what safety should look like. Nostalgia won't protect you from lead, rust, or rot. And a smiling pig on the label won't save your health when the food behind it cuts corners. Number 8. Target. Target looks like safety in a red sweater neatly shelved, softly lit, and smelling faintly of candles and shampoo. It's where shoppers go to feel like they're making smart, elevated choices. But in the canned food aisle, Target's carefully polished image quickly corrodes. Let's start with Good and Gather, the store's private label. Its packaging whispers words like thoughtfully sourced and quality ingredients, but lab tests have told a different story. In 2021, Consumer Reports found measurable levels of lead and cadmium in Good and Gather canned beans and vegetables. One batch of black beans crossed 15 parts per billion in lead content, enough to raise FDA concern, especially for older adults vulnerable to kidney and brain damage, yet no recall, no notice. The misdirection doesn't stop there. In 2022, a consumer group filed a complaint after low-sodium tomato soup under Good and Gather was tested and found to contain 870 milligrams of sodium, nearly double the amount listed on the label. That kind of inaccuracy isn't just sloppy, it's dangerous for seniors with hypertension. And then there's the packaging. In 2023, the Center for Environmental Health named Target as one of the few chains that refused to disclose whether its imported cans were BPA-free for a brand that sells transparency. The silence was loud. Behind the red logos and soft lighting lies a cold truth. Target imports much of its canned food from factories in Thailand and Peru, some of which have been cited for pesticide and sanitation violations. In one case, canned pineapple from a Thai supplier flagged for chemical use continued to appear on Target shelves. The company's defense: the paperwork checked out. In the end, Target isn't selling safety. It's selling an illusion well-designed packaging filled with the same risks you'd find at a dollar store. Just because it looks cleaner doesn't mean it is. Every can tells a story, but some are written in rust, lies, and corporate silence. If you've trusted these brands before, you deserve to know the truth now. Share this video. Speak up. And the next time you reach for a can, ask yourself what else might be hiding under that lid.